What's going on, YouTube? This video is brought to you by Timeless Tees and Apparel. Hey, check out the Black Men Matter hoodie. This is inspired by us as black men feeling disrespected, unacknowledged, and flat out just dehumanized. But let's overcome that. Let's start a movement. Black Men Matter. Let's go. Check out the content. Okay, what's up, everybody? I finally have found the information I've been looking for years. I finally have cracked the code on my grandfather, Robert Mitchell, the father of my mother, the father of Uncle Bobby, the father of Auntie's sister, and the father of was it Nathaniel? Stinky, who died. I only know the nickname, but I'm really excited. So I'm gonna try to be as concise as I can possibly be in this video. But this is huge. So Robert Mitchell, he was born in January 1907 in Ellis, Texas. I was looking in Lubbock, Texas, where they lived at some point in time, but he was actually born in Ellis, Texas. Okay, and let me pause for a moment. All right, so he was born in Ellis, Texas, to Bob Mitchell Sr. So he had the same name, so Uncle Bobby. It was Robert, but they listed it as Bob, but it was Robert. And his mother was Minnie Mitchell. So Bob Mitchell Sr. and Minnie Mitchell would have been the grandparents of Uncle Bobby and my mom and Auntie's sister and Stinky. So these would be my great grandparents. But I finally found them. You see, Bob Mitchell, he was born in 1871. So see, I'm way far back. And Minnie, she was born in 1888, as you can see right here. So the next place I want to go is to the 1950 census. Okay, so here we are in the 1950 census. This is what the family looked like in 1950 at the house that we all refer to as Granny's house. But in actuality, um, our grandfather, Robert Mitchell, I'm sure, is the one that purchased that house for the family. Now, this was his second marriage. This was Granny's second marriage as well. They were looking for a better life out here in the Northwest, trying to get out of Texas, because that's what Uncle Bobby told me. So looking at the records, it seems to match up to what he remembered being told, when he was younger. So in 1950, he was 43. Granny was 35. Nathaniel was in the house. There's Ola May. There's Uncle Robert. There's Uncle Dan. There's Uncle Walter. There's Auntie's sister. There's Darnell, which is Stinky. There's Uncle Bobby. There's my mom, June. She was 1. There is Horace. There's Junior. He was 2. And then there was Dorothy, at 1. So he took responsibility for the entire family, which was huge because all of those other children, Nathaniel, Ola May, Uncle Robert, Uncle Dan, Uncle Walter, those were his children through marriage. Those were actually the children of Granny's first marriage, which was what's his name? Williams, Robert Williams. And I don't know why she had a thing for Roberts. This is crazy, but This is what the family looked like in 1950 in the house that we call Granny's house on 26th Avenue South in Seattle, King County, Washington. So um, Uncle Bobby was three, like my mom was one, like Horace was two, and Doll was one. So I just want to just focus on the extent of understanding our family's history. This is so huge. So I'm glad I can pass this on before we continue to lose more elders. I wish Doll was still here. We just recently lost her, so I'm sad that I can't share this with her now. But I'm glad I'm able to share this with Uncle Bobby and Auntie Sister. So I want to make sure that everybody please share this video. Okay. Well, let me pause for a moment. All right. Now, just sharing the family history because now that I'm 8 years into my divorce, I'm really seeing the damage of divorce. Like, divorce is really what destroys families, unfortunately. And divorce is really a curse. And I'm really seeing how deadly divorce is. But it looks like Granny filed for divorce in 1977. Now, I have verified this with Uncle Robert. I mean, with Uncle Bobby and with Junior as well. And Uncle Bobby expressed to me that it was really a sad day, and I bet it was because as I showed you in the previous segment in the 1950 census. I mean, we're talking 27 years later. Um, that boom, the family was just destroyed, and everyone has memories at that house on 26 in Washington that is no longer there. And yeah, it's just sad. But something happened in the 70s with feminism and the whole women's empowerment. This is not to offend anybody, any females in the family, but the legislation and the things that they've done systemically to destroy the family has really had a real big impact on us as Black people. It's had a huge impact, but it's been devastating, unfortunately. But sad to say, after 27 years of marriage, I was born in '73, so this is why I met my grandfather one time. I remember he came to Seattle once, and I met him one time, and I remember he looked like Uncle Bobby, and that's pretty much all I remember. My mother didn't talk much about him. No one has really talked much about a lot of the patriarchs, the men in the family, where it's really sad, but it's unfortunate. And again, this is not a put down on any women or females in the family, but there's always been more of a focus on the grandmothers and the matriarchy, and not on the men. And it's the men at this time were the head of the household. So it's just sad to see and to know and hear the story of how this divorce, second divorce. I mean, it was already fractured from the Williams side. So it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. Not blaming anyone, but just want to share that history. But Granny filed for divorce in 1977, and most likely acquired that house through the divorce. Okay, so this is Robert Mitchell Sr. This would have been my great grandfather. This would have been the grandfather of Uncle Bobby, Auntie Sister, and my mother, and Stingy. I never met him, so he passed away before I was born. So that's all I can refer to him as. But he was born in Texas in 1871. And I want to show you this. Give me one moment. So, see, birth of son, Robert Mitchell. This is my grandfather, uh, January 13, 1907. So he was also born in Texas. And I want to show you this next, the 1910 census. Let me show you this. Okay. So the importance of this 1910 census, this is when they were living in right here in Ellis, Texas. They got his race as mulatto. I've said this in other videos. The census recorders were government workers that would come out and they filled out the census information. If they saw anyone who was of any lighter complexion, who wasn't like my complexion or darker, a lot of times they would put down the race as mulatto. But that's he was black. This is common in all of the census records. So a lot of the information that the census people put down was just not accurate. But so relation to head of the house, he was the son-in-law. So everyone lived in the same house, the same way everyone lived in the same house at Granny's house. I'll just call it Granny's house because that's all we've ever referred to it as. So my point is that um, everyone that grew up in Granny's house when my grandfather was present, he was laying the groundwork for how he grew up. I mean, his father grew up in the house under his grandfather. So it just makes sense to what I remember growing up in Granny's house, how everyone was welcome and all the family was there. So, so he was married, and I'll get into that in a moment. But he was married to our grandmother, great grandmother. Father's birthplace, Texas. Mother's birthplace, Texas. Native tongue, English. Occupation, laborer. Farm. Industry was farm. Able to read, yes. Able to write, yes. So I like to stress that, a lot of us younger, my generation, we're proud of, being intelligent and being well spoken and articulate and being educated and whatnot. So I always have to stress that, those characteristics we got from our elders. Those kind of things were just passed down. So they were married for 7 years. He was not out of work. Enumerated year 1910. That just means that that's the year that they did the census. So bam. All right. So here's the new revelation. So this is John W. Hayes. This was his father-in-law. Yes, this was his father-in-law. Okay, so that is his father-in-law. So his wife is Minnie Mitchell. So Minnie Mitchell is here. She was 22, and then there's Grandpa right there, Bob Mitchell Jr. So he was 3 in 1910. See, he was born in 1907, and then they had William Mitchell, another child, must have been his brother, and then Cleve Mackey. This was probably another family member. So, and then you had Frank Robinson, Pearl Robinson. So you have to understand, women take on the name of the men that they married. So oftentimes these were, his children. So this was John W. Hayes and Lucinda Hayes, Wesley Hayes, 17, Stella Hayes, Leela Hayes, Millie Hayes, and then Minnie was also a Hayes, but when she married our grandfather's father, who was Bob Mitchell Sr., he was 39 at the time, and she was 22. So he was like 17 years older than her. But and it says here that they were married for 7 years. So again, this was common back in those days, but it looks like she got married, around the same time Granny did, which was 14 or 15 years old. Now you have to understand, a lot of us have been indoctrinated with the laws that we are familiar with today in this generation. But you have to understand that that was not how things were in 1910. So we're talking about 1910. This is a long time ago. So I just want to share that. Let me pause. Okay. So I'm going to talk about, all right, Minnie Mitchell. So this was my grandfather, Robert Mitchell. This was his mother. And she married Robert Mitchell Sr. And that's how they had my grandfather, Robert Mitchell, who is the progenitor of Uncle Bobby, my mom, June, Auntie Linda, and Stanky. So I hope I'm being clear because I know it can be confusing. But so this would have been the great grandmother of, no, this would have been Uncle Bobby's grandmother. Yeah. So this would have been Uncle Bobby's grandmother because this was his father's mother, Minnie Mitchell. His father's, yeah, mother. Right. And then, exactly. So, you see, she was born in Texas in 1888, and she passed away in Ellis, Texas in 1938. Now, her parents were John Hayes and Lucinda Hayes. So this would have been Uncle Bobby. This would have been your great grandparents. This would have been your great grandmother and your great grandfather. Um, so I have finally cracked the code here. So and then you see there's Uncle Herbert right there. So Bob Mitchell Sr. And then here's Robert Mitchell, and then there's Herbert Mitchell, which was the brother of um, of Robert Mitchell, who my mom used to always take me over to Uncle Herbert and Nana's house to visit them, and I had no idea that was my grandfather's brother. I had no idea. I was young, but I remember I used to always, my mom used to always take me over there, but Uncle Herbert and Aunt Nina. But I just want to show you that Minnie Mitchell, this is the mother of Robert Mitchell, and her parents were John Hayes and Lucinda Hayes. These would have been the great grandparents of Uncle Bobby, Auntie Sister, my mom, and Stinky. So let me pause for a moment. Okay, here we go. Now, so John W. Hayes, he is the father of Minnie Mitchell, who was the mother of Robert Mitchell, my grandfather, and Uncle Bobby and everyone's father that married Granny. And I showed you in 1950 in the census where everyone lived in the house on 26 in Washington that we're all familiar with. Now, look how deep this is here. Now, I know who his parents were, and this is where it ends. His father was Isram Hayes. His mother was Mahala Hayes. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to go into this record and I'm going to show you where, let me see here. Make sure I know what I'm doing. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to go into the 1880 census. I think the first census was in 1870. So we're talking this 10 years after the first census record. Now, mind you, Robert Mitchell was born in 1907. So we're almost 100 years before his birth. This is how far back. So what I want to stress and show you here is that Isram and Mahala Hayes were were born in Virginia. Virginia is one of the first places that the slave ships arrived. So I believe that possibly our family, this side of the family, because not on my father's side of the family, my father, Warren Black, every ancestry record that I have from my father's side of the family indicates that they were from the Chickasaw Nation Indian tribe, and they were in Oklahoma the whole time. They were always there in Oklahoma. They were part of the Trail of Tears. They were part of my father's side of the family were already here. They did not come here on slave ships. I know that for a fact. But on my mother's side of the family here, I am coming to the conclusion that more than likely this side of our family did come off of a slave ship from Africa. Now, I can't fully verify that, but just because I know that we're talking about 1807 is when John Hayes was born. And let me go into this record. Let me move myself here. Okay. Let me pause so I'm not wasting time here. Okay, here we go. So Isram Hayes, he was 79 in 1880. Okay. His birth date was about 1801. All right. My grandfather was born in 1907. So we're talking about 100 years before the birth of Robert Williams. So, and look, home in 1880, McLennan, Texas. Race, black, gender, male, marital status, married, spouse's name, Mahala Hayes, occupation, farmer. All our family members were farmers on my father's side and my mother's side. And now none of us know how to farm. Now they've industrialized us, and now everything is a technology driven um, economy and whatnot. So it's crazy to see this, how they've basically have created a system to where no one knows how to actually physically do anything anymore. Whereas back in these times, everything was done with your bare hands. Like, you had to have an actual skill set. Because Uncle Bobby was telling me how my grandfather, added on to the house that we're all familiar with. Like he built Uncle Walter's room. Like he added on that dining room that was at Granny's house as well too. My grandfather did that, so clearly he inherited skills from what he saw growing up, from the older ancestors, the elders before him. So cannot read, cannot write. Yes, yes, I can see that back in we're talking about 1800. But what I want to show here is look, his birthplace, Virginia. Now let me show you this. Okay, so if you ask Google simply where did the first slave ships arrive, you'll get this answer. So in late August 1619, 20 to 30 enslaved Africans landed at Point Comfort, today's Fort Monroe, in Hampton, Virginia, aboard the English privateer ship White Lion. If you've seen that new movie that everybody's been talking about, that Leave the World Behind. There's a scene in there where a ship comes and smashes right up against the beach. If you go back and watch and pay attention, the ship that smashes on the beach is called White Lion. I don't know what kind of subliminal message they're trying to put in there, but that's what it's called. But this was the first slave ship that arrived in Virginia. These Africans were traded in exchange for supplies. Several days later, a second ship, Treasurer, arrived in Virginia with additional enslaved Africans. So I can't prove for certain, but I am pretty sure with going back to him being born in 1801 in Virginia, right here, that there's a strong likelihood that our family on this side were slaves. Now, my family on my dad's side were slaves, but they were indentured slaves in the Chickasaw Indian tribe. That was just a part of the culture. Um, you worked under a family. Like my father's side of the family worked for like the governor of the Chickasaw Nation. And generations worked in the household. It was no different from like the whole family. If I used to work at Microsoft, it's no different from like us having a family tradition of all working at Microsoft. Similar type deal. But this is I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. I've been doing this ancestry research since my father and mother passed in '06. In 2008, I've been on ancestry.com since 2009. And so I have learned how to use this, and I know how to find the information, and I know that this is all accurate. Just because I just know how to match it up with other records. It's too complicated to really explain in this video. But these are the parents of John Hayes. John Hayes would have been, he is the father of Minnie Mitchell, who was the mother of Robert Mitchell. So this would have been my great great grandfather, and this would have been Uncle Bobby, Auntie Sisters, and my mom and Stinky's great grandfather. So I have taken us all the way back to the beginning. I hope you please watch this video. Please just watch this video, and we definitely. I need to have this posted somewhere so that this needs to be watched by everybody. Seriously, like this has been the black hole that Junior, everybody's been trying to figure out, that no one has known. I'm not trying to promote myself. I don't care. I'm doing this for the family, but I have finally got us back to pretty much the genesis. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this out, but I hope you learned something here, and please watch this a couple times if you have to. And the next time I see all y'all in person or something, I can go into more detail. But I finally found where we came from on my mother's side. And now I'm fully full because I know my father and my mother's ancestry to the beginning, to the fullest. All right. I love y'all. And God bless us all. All praise be to the Most High.